In the year 2025, the global automotive landscape appeared to have reached a definitive conclusion where every major manufacturer and every government policy seemed to point toward a single inevitable destination, which was the total dominance of battery electric vehicles. For years, the narrative was clear that the internal combustion engine was a relic of a passing era, and that the roar of petrol was being silenced by the hum of high-voltage batteries. However, while the world was busy watching the stock prices of pure EV companies, a massive shift was happening behind the closed doors of BYD, which is a company that has already proven it can outpace almost anyone in the battery game. But instead of doubling down solely on pure electricity, BYD made a move that sent a literal shockwave through the industry by introducing a sophisticated new turbo boxer engine technology. This move was not just a simple mechanical update or a minor tweak to an existing model line, but rather it represented a fundamental challenge to the idea that the future belongs to batteries alone. The industry began to buzz with a single burning question, which was whether this new engine was designed to target the most glaring weaknesses of modern EVs, such as range anxiety and the massive infrastructure gaps that still exist in most of the world. By combining the mechanical balance of a boxer layout with the forced induction of a turbocharger, BYD is proposing a new reality where the question is no longer whether electric or petrol is better, but rather how a system can emerge that harvests the strengths of both worlds to change the game entirely. To truly understand why this development is so significant, one must look at BYD not just as a car manufacturer but as a master strategist of the energy transition, because thinking of them as just an EV company is only seeing half of the picture. The truth is that BYD has never put all its eggs in one basket, and their recent sales data proves that they are pursuing a dual-track strategy with ruthless efficiency. In 2023 alone, the company sold nearly 3 million vehicles, and what surprised many analysts was that roughly half of that massive volume consisted of plug-in hybrids, while the other half were pure electrics. This trend did not slow down in 2024 as their total sales climbed toward 3.5 million units, with hybrid vehicles accounting for a massive portion of that growth. This data sends a clear message to the entire global market that the company is not building a future that is entirely dependent on a charging grid that may not be ready, but rather they are perfecting a system that integrates the best of petrol and electric power. This is precisely where the new turbo boxer engine comes into play, because it is not a traditional engine built for the sake of noise or raw fuel consumption like the engines of the past 50 years. Instead, this engine has a new purpose, which is to act as a sophisticated support system that reduces the physical load on the battery while simultaneously increasing the total range of the vehicle and balancing the overall costs. Today, the biggest concerns surrounding the mass adoption of electric vehicles remain the same, which are the slow charging times, the high cost of replacement batteries, and the lack of a robust charging network in many parts of the globe. While driving a pure EV is an effortless experience in a hyper-modern city, the reality changes drastically once you cross the border into developing nations or rural areas where the power grid is fragile and charging stations are non-existent. In this global context, the hybrid engine serves as a vital bridge that balances today's practical needs with tomorrow's environmental dreams. The specific choice of a boxer design for this new engine is a masterclass in engineering, because the horizontal arrangement of the cylinders allows for a much lower center of gravity and a natural cancellation of vibrations, which makes the engine run with a smoothness that mimics an electric motor. When you add a turbocharger to this balanced architecture, you create a small displacement power plant that can deliver high performance on demand without the weight and bulk of a massive engine block. This indirectly targets the greatest weakness of the pure EV, which is total dependency on a fixed energy source, because a hybrid system supported by such an efficient engine ensures that even if battery technology plateaus or if the charging infrastructure fails to expand fast enough, the user will never face a loss of mobility. BYD understands that the global market is not a monolith, and that what works in a wealthy European capital might not be practical in the vast landscapes of Asia or Africa. This realization is why they have maintained such a strong focus on balancing their portfolio between hybrids and electrics every single year. This strategy is a loud message to the rest of the automotive world that the future of transportation will not come from a single narrow path, but will instead emerge from a variety of solutions that cater to different geographical and economic realities. The design of the turbo boxer engine is the physical manifestation of this philosophy, because it allows for a vehicle that is light enough to be efficient yet powerful enough to handle long-distance travel without the constant fear of finding a plug. As we look closer at the mechanical soul of this engine, we see that the cylinders are positioned opposite each other like two boxers in a ring, moving toward and away from each other in a rhythmic dance that eliminates the harsh shaking found in traditional. This inherent balance means that the vehicle remains stable even at high speeds, and the driving experience feels more controlled and refined than ever before. Furthermore, the addition of the turbocharger changes the power dynamic by using the energy from exhaust gases to force more air into the combustion chamber, which allows a small engine to perform like a much larger one. In the modern automotive world, where every kilogram of weight and every millimeter of space matters, this compact powerhouse is a revolutionary development because it leaves more room for batteries and passengers while reducing the overall energy consumption of the car. This lower profile also allows the engine to be mounted lower in the chassis, which improves the handling and makes the car feel more connected to the road. This is not just about moving a car from point A to point B, but about creating a new balance in the driving experience where power control and efficiency go hand in hand to solve the problems that have plagued the industry for decades. As the battle for range continues, it becomes clear that the solution might not be a bigger battery but a smarter engine that can act as the ultimate backup and support system for the electric revolution. The technical brilliance of the turbo boxer engine lies in its ability to solve the fundamental physics problems that have plagued internal combustion for over a century while simultaneously integrating with the digital age of electric propulsion. To truly grasp why this specific design is a game-changer, one must dive deep into the mechanical architecture because the choice of a boxer layout is far from accidental. In a standard engine, the pistons move up and down or in a V-shape, which creates a natural secondary vibration that requires heavy balancing shafts to smooth out. However, the boxer engine operates on a principle of perfect symmetry where the pistons move horizontally like two fighters throwing punches in unison. This movement creates a natural counterbalance that cancels out internal forces before they ever reach the cabin of the car. For BYD, this isn't just about comfort but about creating a synergy with the electric side of the vehicle, because when a hybrid switches from silent electric mode to petrol power, the transition in a traditional car is often jarring and noisy. With the boxer design, the transition becomes almost imperceptible to the driver, providing a seamless flow of energy that maintains the premium feel of an EV while offering the infinite range of a petrol car. When you introduce a turbocharger into this balanced equation, the potential for efficiency skyrockets because the turbo acts as a force multiplier that recovers wasted energy from the exhaust. In the past, turbochargers were seen as tools for high-speed racing, but in the context of BYD's new strategy, they are tools for extreme optimization. By forcing more air into the combustion chamber, the engine can achieve a much higher power density, which means the physical size of the engine can be significantly reduced without sacrificing the torque needed for highway merging or heavy loads. This reduction in size is the secret weapon for hybrid packaging because the primary struggle in designing a modern car is the competition for space between the passenger cabin, the battery pack, and the engine. A compact turbo boxer engine sits low and flat in the chassis, which opens up the engine bay and allows engineers to fit larger battery cells or more sophisticated cooling systems. This low-profile design also significantly lowers the vehicle's center of gravity, which is a massive advantage for safety and handling because a car with a lower center of gravity is far less likely to roll and remains much more stable during emergency maneuvers or sharp turns on the highway. This brings us to the critical debate regarding the hidden weaknesses of pure electric vehicles that the industry often tries to overlook. While the world has been captivated by the promise of zero emissions at the tailpipe, the reality of owning a pure EV involves a series of compromises that not every consumer is willing to make. The most significant of these is the time cost of charging, which remains the ultimate barrier to mass adoption. Even with the most advanced fast chargers, filling a battery to 80% can take 30 minutes or more, whereas refueling a hybrid takes less than 5 minutes. For a family on a long road trip or a professional who drives hundreds of miles a day, that time difference is not just an inconvenience but a total deal breaker. Furthermore, the cost of the battery remains the single most expensive component of an EV, often accounting for nearly 40% of the total vehicle price. By utilizing a highly efficient turbo boxer engine as a range extender or a primary power source in a hybrid setup, BYD can use a smaller and more affordable battery while still providing the user with a total driving range that exceeds 1,000 kilometers. This makes the vehicle more accessible to the middle class and reduces the overall environmental impact of mining rare metals like lithium and cobalt, which are required in massive quantities for pure EV batteries. The performance narrative is also being rewritten by this technology because for a long time the public believed that speed was the exclusive domain of electric motors due to their instant torque. While it is true that an EV provides an immediate punch of power, the moment you touch the pedal they often struggle with sustained high-speed performance because the heat generated by the battery can lead to thermal throttling. This is where the hybrid system supported by a turbocharger takes the lead because the petrol engine is designed to provide consistent high-output power for hours on end without the same degradation in performance. The turbocharger ensures that the engine is breathing efficiently even at high altitudes, or in extreme temperatures where a naturally aspirated engine would lose power. By combining the instant torque of an electric motor for city driving with the sustained high-speed capability of a turbo boxer engine, BYD is creating a vehicle that doesn't just win the sprint from 0 to 60 but wins the marathon of long-distance travel. This dual-source power delivery ensures that the driver always has a reserve of energy whether they are navigating stop-and-go traffic or overtaking a truck on a mountain pass. Moreover, the issue of the global power grid cannot be ignored because as more people switch to electric vehicles, the strain on local transformers and national energy systems is reaching a breaking point. In many developing nations, the grid simply cannot handle the simultaneous charging of millions of high-voltage vehicles without causing blackouts or requiring trillions of dollars in infrastructure upgrades. The turbo boxer hybrid acts as a pressure release valve for the energy grid because these vehicles can be charged slowly at home or not charged at all while still operating with extreme efficiency. This makes the technology a perfect fit for markets where the infrastructure is not yet ready for a total electric takeover. BYD is essentially future-proofing its business by recognizing that the transition to green energy will happen at different speeds in different parts of the world. Their strategy is to provide a tool that works everywhere from the high-tech streets of Shenzhen to the rural roads of South America. This isn't just a technological choice but a geopolitical one because it allows BYD to remain the dominant force in the global market regardless of how fast or slow the EV charging network expands. By mastering the balance between the battery and the boxer engine, they are creating a new category of vehicle that is more resilient, more affordable, and more practical than the pure EVs that were once thought to be the only path forward. The emergence of BYD's turbo boxer technology has done more than just update a mechanical specs sheet. It has forced a massive re-evaluation of the strategies held by the world's oldest and most powerful automakers. For years, the global narrative was dominated by a battery or bust mentality, leading many to believe that icons like Toyota, Honda, and Hyundai were falling behind because they refused to abandon their engine programs entirely. However, the tide is turning in a way that suggests these veterans might have been right all along. Toyota, in particular, has faced intense criticism for its cautious approach to pure electric vehicles, choosing instead to double down on a diverse multi-pathway strategy that prioritizes hybrids. Today, as the limitations of charging infrastructure and the soaring costs of raw battery materials become undeniable, Toyota's strategy is starting to look like prophetic wisdom rather than stubbornness. The market is beginning to realize that the transition to sustainable transport is not a sprint toward a single technology, but a marathon that requires a variety of energy sources to keep the world moving. The real battle for the future of the automotive industry is no longer about who can build the fastest car, but who can build the most practical one for the average global citizen. This is where, powered by an efficient and compact engine like the turbo boxer, becomes a devastatingly effective weapon. In the premium sectors of Europe and North America, the early adopters of EVs have already made their purchases, but the next wave of buyers, the mass market, is far more price-sensitive and far less willing to deal with the inconveniences of long charging stops. These customers value reliability and convenience above all else. If a customer has to choose between an expensive pure EV that requires a planned route through charging stations and a hybrid that offers the same smooth driving experience but can be refueled anywhere in 5 minutes, the choice becomes clear. This shift in consumer priority is putting immense pressure on EV giants like Tesla, who have built their entire identity on a battery-only future. The hidden reality of the global market is that energy independence is a matter of national security, and the total reliance on a single supply chain for battery minerals like lithium and cobalt is a massive risk. By integrating highly efficient internal combustion engines into the electric mix, companies can reduce the size of the batteries needed for each vehicle, which effectively stretches the available supply of rare metals much further. This allows for the production of 3 or 4 hybrid vehicles using the same amount of lithium required for just one long-range pure EV. From a global perspective, this is a far more efficient way to reduce total carbon emissions across the entire population. It also eases the burden on national power grids, which in many countries are already struggling with the increased demand from domestic and industrial growth. The turbo boxer engine represents a way to electrify the world without. Furthermore, we must consider the impact of thermal efficiency and the role of smart technology in managing these complex systems. The modern engine is no longer a dumb machine controlled by a simple throttle cable. It is a highly computerized component that works in perfect synchronization with the electric motors. In BYD's new architecture, the smart control system acts as a digital brain, constantly analyzing data from hundreds of sensors to decide the most efficient way to move the car. If you are crawling through heavy city traffic, the system keeps the engine off and relies entirely on the battery to save fuel and eliminate noise. But the moment you hit the open highway or require a sudden burst of speed, the turbo boxer engine fires up instantly, not just to drive the wheels, but to act as a high-speed generator for the motor or to provide direct mechanical power when it is most efficient. This level of integration ensures that the engine is always operating in its sweet spot of maximum efficiency, minimizing emissions and maximizing performance in a way that traditional cars never could. The competition between the new guard of EV startups and the old guard of established manufacturers is entering a new and unpredictable phase. As companies like BYD prove that they can dominate both the battery and the engine sectors simultaneously, they are setting a new standard for what a global car company should look like. This isn't just about a comeback for older companies. It's about a total fusion of technologies. The future of the global market will likely be defined by a multi-energy approach where the car is capable of adapting to its environment. If you are in a city with a green zone, your car runs on pure electricity. If you are crossing a desert or a mountain range, your turbo boxer takes over. This flexibility is the ultimate luxury in a world where energy prices and infrastructure are constantly in flux. As we move closer to the end of the decade, the cars that succeed will be the ones that offer freedom from the plug without sacrificing the silence and power of the electric revolution. As we stand at the threshold of a new era in 2025, it is becoming increasingly clear that the automotive industry is not heading toward a simple all-electric finish line, but rather toward a complex and fascinating crossroads. This year has proven to be the ultimate turning point where the initial hype of the EV revolution has met the cold, hard reality of global logistics and consumer behavior. For years, the world was told that the internal combustion engine was a dying technology, a ghost of the Industrial Revolution destined for the museum. However, the emergence of technologies like the BYD turbo boxer engine suggests that the engine isn't dying. It is being reborn as a sophisticated, high-tech partner to the electric motor. The market direction is no longer moving in a straight line because the ground realities of infrastructure, mineral scarcity, and economic pressure are dictating a more balanced path forward. This shift is forcing governments and policymakers to rethink their aggressive mandates, moving away from electric-only laws toward zero-emission-capable standards that allow for advanced hybrid systems to flourish. The most important voice in this entire global debate is not the CEO of a car company or a government minister, but the average customer who has to live with these vehicles every day. For the luxury buyer, a pure EV with a massive battery might be a status symbol, but for the billions of people in the global middle class, the decision comes down to a very practical calculation of price versus convenience. The average user is asking tough questions. Can I drive this car to another province without worrying about where to charge? Will the battery still be worth something in 10 years? Can I afford the insurance and repair costs? This is where the hybrid turbo boxer system wins the argument because it offers the quiet, high-torque experience people love about EVs without the range anxiety that keeps them awake at night. By providing a car that is affordable, reliable, and capable of operating in any environment, from frozen mountains to tropical heat, BYD and its rivals are catering to the reality of human life rather than a theoretical technological ideal. Looking deeper into the hidden technology that will define the next 5 years, we see a world where software and hardware are becoming one. The smart control systems we discussed are only getting more advanced, utilizing predictive AI to map out your journey before you even leave your driveway. Imagine a car that looks at your GPS destination, checks the elevation of the road and the current traffic conditions, and then pre-calculates exactly when to use the battery and when to engage the turbo boxer engine to ensure you arrive with the lowest possible fuel consumption. This isn't science fiction. It is the current frontier of automotive engineering. We are moving toward a multi-energy ecosystem where the car acts as a mobile power plant, managing heat, electricity, and mechanical force with a level of precision that was unthinkable a decade ago. This technological fusion is what will allow us to achieve true sustainability without forcing the entire world to wait for a charging grid that might take 30 years to build. The global impact of this shift will be felt in every corner of the economy, from the mines of Africa to the high-tech factories of Asia and the showrooms of North America. If hybrid systems become the dominant force, the extreme pressure on the lithium supply chain will stabilize, making batteries more affordable for everyone. It will also prevent the catastrophic collapse of the traditional mechanical supply chain, protecting millions of jobs in engine manufacturing while simultaneously training a new generation of high-voltage technicians. This middle path is becoming the most attractive option for a world that is tired of radical shifts and looking for stable, reliable progress. The competition will remain fierce, with EV giants like Tesla being forced to innovate even faster to prove their battery-only model can compete with the versatility of the new hybrids. Meanwhile, legacy giants like Toyota and newcomers like BYD will continue to refine the engine, proving that there is still plenty of life left in the heart of the machine. In conclusion, what we are witnessing today is the end of the EV versus gas war and the beginning of the integrated power era. The BYD turbo boxer engine is more than just a piece of metal and a turbine. It is a symbol of a more mature, more practical approach to the future of mobility. It tells us that we don't have to choose between performance and the environment, or between technology and convenience. The future will be silent when you want it to be, powerful when you need it to be, and always ready to go the distance. What you've learned today is that the future of transportation isn't just about changing what's in the fuel tank. It's about changing how we think about energy itself. As the road ahead continues to evolve, one thing is certain. Those who can balance the strengths of both worlds will be the ones who lead the way. If you value staying ahead of the curve and understanding the real technology shaping our world, make sure you are part of our journey as we continue to track the fastest-moving industry on the planet.